As a Mets fan, you tend to find the little things in life to be enjoyable. The way the sky is vibrating a sky blue. The way the cold pillow, when you flip it, is even colder. We love those things as Mets fans. After supporting a team with years upon years of disappointment, you tend to build a lot of character and a lot of willpower. The determination is unmatched in any other fan base. This is not by choice, however. This is just a price you have to pay to be a Mets fan. Whenever the Mets are looking like they're gonna finally make some noise in the postseason, they inevitably choke it all away. However, the Mets have not always been extreme choke artists. They've had stretches of greatness in their 6 decades of existence. But if there's one thing I have to point to say that is exactly where the Mets started to have a downfall, it will be Game 7 of the 2006 NLCS. When you type the name Carlos Beltran into the YouTube search engine, the first thing that comes up is, well, Carlos Beltran. But the next thing that comes up is Carlos Beltran strikes out 2006 NLCS. Surely there are other things that Beltran should be recognized more for in his career. How about the time he collided with Mike Cameron in the outfield? Or the time he broke up Johan Santana's no-hitter while being a part of the Cardinals, but then it not counting as a hit and all Mets fans rejoicing. Or the fact that he's one of the best combinations of power and speed that the game has ever seen. Or even the fact that he was a part of the cheating Astro team in 2017. No. It seems like none of those are relevant when referring to Carlos Beltran, and the only thing of note is his infamous strikeout in the 2006 NLCS. So let's take a trip down memory lane and try to figure out exactly when both Carlos Beltran and the New York Mets became etched in baseball history as choke artists. Let's provide some context for the 2006 Mets roster. In 2003, the Mets finished with the 4th worst record in baseball, and Mike Piazza was on his way out after suffering a groin injury. The Mets were down bad, but at the very least, they now had a rookie, Jose Reyes, tearing out the base paths and defending like an utter savage at shortstop. Fast forward to 2004, the Mets acquired the infamous Kaz Matsui, who was never quite as good as his brother Hideki. The Mets also brought in new management with Omar Minaya, called up future captain and all-star David Wright from AAA, and created their own television channel to broadcast games entitled SNY. So instead of Mets fans being disappointed on national television, they can now sulk away in despair on local broadcasting. Seems to have a better feel. Now we are in 2005, and the Mets finally don't look like dog water for the first time in years. The Shea Stadium alum finished 5 games above 500 this season, but alas, missed the playoffs by 6 games. 2005 was the year the Mets took a firm step forward in competing for a World Series. They brought aboard Willie Randolph as their new manager, and then proceeded to sign a slew of savages to beef up their roster. Names like Pedro Martinez, Carlos Delgado, Paul LaDuca, Billy Wagner, and of course, they signed Carlos Beltran. Everything seemed to be clicking for the Mets in the 2006 season. They had 6 team members make the All-Star team and finished the season with the best record in the National League. Although they lost Mike Piazza in the offseason, that did not stop the Mets from having 4 players finishing in the top 15 of the National League MVP race. Carlos Delgado finished 12th with 38 bombs and 114 ribbies. David Wright finished 9th with 26 bombs and 20 steals. Jose Reyes finished 7th with a league-leading 64 stolen bases and a .300 batting average. And alas, the man who finished in 4th place had 41 home runs, 116 ribbies, 18 stolen bases, and a crisp WAR of 8.2. This man was Carlos Beltran. Beltran had a career year in 2006, posting career highs in homers, RBIs, walks, and slugging percentage. In 2006, Beltran had a career high walk rate at a staggering 15.4%, which will be of note very, very soon. Finally, we have arrived at the infamous 2006 postseason. The Mets faced off against the wildcard winner Los Angeles Dodgers and proceeded to cleanly sweep them. Billy Wagner, who finished 6th in Cy Young voting as a closer, routinely picked up 2 saves in the series. Pedro Martinez had torn his rotator cuff prior to the playoffs, meaning the Mets had basically one true ace on their staff, that ace being Tom Glavine. In the Dodger series, Glavine pitched a 6-inning gem in Game 2, and the diabolical mixture of him, Wagner, and a studded bullpen all helped propel the Mets to the NLCS. The Mets bats were also on fire in the series as they had 6 players swinging for plus 300 averages. One thing to note is Carlos Beltran batted an abysmal .222 this series, but his on-base percentage was a stellar .500, as he was known for drawing out counts and getting lots of walks. Seems like I'm doing a lot of foreshadowing here. It seemed like it was fate that the Mets would meet the Yankees again in the World Series, as they both finished tied with the best record in baseball. However, the Yankees lost to the Detroit Tigers in round 1, whereas the Mets were able to advance to round 2, where they would meet the St. Louis Cardinals. Game 1 of the series went just as expected. Glavine threw a 7-inning gem, Billy Wagner shut the door, and Carlos Beltran provided the only 2 RBIs of the game, and the Mets won 2-0. Game 2 of the series went a little haywire. The game was tied 6-6 heading into the 9th, where the Mets would once again call upon stud closer Billy Wagner, but this time he gave up 3 runs, allowing the Cardinals to even the series up at 1 game apiece. In Game 3, the Mets were completely shut down by Jeff Sappan, who sported a 4.12 ERA that season. Like, come on now. Mets would lose Game 3 5-0, but quickly bounced back with a 12-5 win in Game 4, once again evening up the series, which was now at 2-2. In Game 5, the Mets would put their ace Tom Glavine on the mound, but instead of throwing a gem again, he gave up 3 earned runs in 4 innings pitched, leading to a 4-2 Cardinals victory. The Mets headed into Game 6, facing a must-win scenario, so they threw out John Maine on the mound to go up against the Cardinal stud Chris Carpenter. Jose Reyes led off the game with a home run, and the Mets would hold a 4-0 lead until the 9th inning. In came Billy Wagner once again to shut the door on the Cardinals, which he was about to do, but not without allowing 2 runs and making Mets fans really sweat this win out. The series was now tied 3-3, and Game 7 was about to take place in the Mets' home stadium, Shea Stadium. It's funny how history repeats itself, because the Cardinals tossed out Jeff Sappan yet again to start, and yet again he completely shut down the Mets, spinning 7 innings of 1-run ball. On the other side of the mound, Oliver Perez went 6 innings, giving up a single run. The Mets early on gained a 1-0 lead thanks to an RBI single in the first inning from the team captain, David Wright. Cardinals quickly tied the game up in the 2nd inning thanks to a sacrifice bunt from Ronnie Belliard, which I assume Alex Rodriguez would lose his mind over. The final inning of Oliver Perez's tenure on the mound was the 6th, and in the 6th inning, he was able to get Juan Encarnacion out, but then walked Jim Edmonds, which would bring Scott Rowland to the plate. On the first pitch of the at-bat, Rowland hit a rocket to left field, which looked for sure like it was going over the wall. However, the Mets had a secret weapon, and that weapon was Endy Chavez. After Endy made one of the most insane catches under the most insane circumstances of all time, the Mets seemed to have all the momentum in the world. The key word here is seemed. The Mets would load up the bases the following inning, and none other than Endy Chavez approached the batter's box, but like all Mets stories, this one does not have a happy ending, as Chavez would fly out to center. For the next 2 innings, it seemed like neither team was willing to win, and both teams were dying to lose, as only 2 base runners were allowed total by both teams. Then we go to the top of the 9th inning, where instead of going to Billy Wagner, the Mets turned to Aaron Heilman, who sported a 3.62 ERA and was basically their second best reliever behind Mr. Wags. Scott Rowland redeemed himself as he got on base with a single, and then Yadier Molina crushed Mets fans' souls everywhere as he tanked a 2-run bomb, thus giving the Cardinals a 3-1 lead. In the bottom of the 9th inning, the Cardinals gave the ball to their rookie stud Adam Wainwright, and he was tasked to face the bottom of the Mets lineup. Jose Valentin and Endy Chavez would both manage to get on base, and then Cliff Floyd struck out looking. Jose Reyes would line out to center for out number 2, and Paul LaDuca would draw a 5-pitch walk. This brought Carlos Beltran to the plate with the bases loaded, 2 outs in the bottom of the 9th inning, down by 2 runs, with the potential to either send the Mets to the World Series or go back to the golfing range for the remainder of this offseason. Beltran looked at strike 1, a fastball right down the heart of the plate. Second pitch, Beltran managed to foul off Wainwright's infamous curveball, Now down 0-2 on the count, the entire city of New York was dialed into this at-bat. One swing of the bat here can rewrite Mets history, but leaving the bat on your shoulders seems to have the same capability. Beltran would strike out looking at the filthiest 12-6 curveball ever thrown in mankind history. The Mets were sent packing as the Cardinals advanced to the World Series, where they'd go on to beat the Detroit Tigers and become World Series champs. Now, you may think the story ends here, but if you know anything about the Mets, you know it doesn't. In the following season, the Mets held a 7-game lead in their division with 17 games left to play, but would lose their lead in historic fashion, losing 12 of the last 17 games of the season. On the final game of the season, if the Mets had won, they would have made the playoffs. Instead, Tom Glavine gave up seven earned runs to the lowly Marlins in less than 1 innings pitched, and that sent the Mets packing. Thanks. 2008 was not any better, as the Mets yet again could have made the playoffs if they had just won the final game of the season, but they yet again lost to the Marlins. What are we doing? This trend continued for the next 7 years, year after year of mediocrity, and narrowly missing the playoffs until 2015, when they actually made it to the World Series, but once again, they lost, because they always lose, and they lost to the Kansas City Royals, whose best player was Eric Hosmer. What are we doing? What can we... If you've made it to the end of this video, congratulations, you have found out what life is like as a Mets fan, or at least you get a small taste. No matter how good we are touted to be, no matter how big the names we have that we sign in the off-season, we simply just don't get over the hump. And you can truly trace the Mets' downfalls year after year to one pitch thrown to Carlos Beltran in 2006. So thank you for watching. Thank you for getting to the end of the video. Make sure to leave a like, a comment, and a subscribe, and have a great day. Hopefully you're not a Mets fan. You ought to actually, you savage.